Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into something that is literally the hidden engine of the world's biggest global giants. It's operations management. We all recognize the famous logos, right? We buy their products all the time. But have you ever wondered what actually drives their massive dominance behind the scenes? Let's look under the hood and find out.
So what makes a global giant actually work? It's a huge, high-stakes question. Because here's the thing. The secret to dominating a global market, it's not just having a good idea. It's not even just having a great product. The real secret is this invisible framework, this relentless operational engine running behind the scenes to deliver that product to millions of people, flawlessly, every single day. Here's our roadmap for This Explainer. First, we'll be decoding operations management. Then, we'll look at the power of case studies. After that, it's all about efficiency with Toyota and Amazon. Then, adaptability with Zara and McDonald's. And finally, we'll wrap up with Dell and our ultimate takeaways.
Section 1. Decoding Operations Management. Okay, let's dive right into this and cut through some of that corporate jargon.
So, operations management, or OM for short, is essentially the central nervous system of any business. It's the process of planning, organizing, and controlling activities to efficiently transform inputs into valuable outputs. Honestly, think of it like a highly tuned car engine. Its whole purpose is to take fuel, or inputs like raw materials and labor, and turn it into forward momentum, the outputs. In business, it's the absolute science of making sure the right product is made, at the right time, in the exact right way, and crucially, at the lowest possible cost. Now, the scope of OM is pretty massive, but it really rests on three main pillars: production management, supply chain management, and logistics management. To see how these connect, just think about your smartphone for a second. Production management, that's what actually built it in a cost-effective, timely way. Supply chain management is what made sure the glass screens and microchips actually arrived from the suppliers so you could build it. And then logistics management handled all the transportation, warehousing, and inventory to get it from a massive facility right into your hands. When a company gets these three working in perfect harmony, they slash costs, reduce delays, and keep us, the customers, incredibly happy.
Section 2. The Power of Case Studies. Now, you might be wondering, how do we actually learn all this without just drowning in dry theory?
Well, we bridge that gap between theory and reality using case studies. And look, don't think of these as boring textbook homework. I like to think of them as thrilling, real-world autopsies of success. They give us this incredible, detailed look into how actual companies tackled massive operational crises.
Why do we study these corporate titans? Well, it gives us a really holistic view of decision-making and exposes us to a whole bunch of diverse industries. But the absolute biggest reason, it reveals the trade-offs. You see, operations management is almost never about finding one single magically perfect solution. It's really about making the smartest choices you possibly can while dealing with really strict constraints. Things like time, labor, budget, and tech.
Moving on to Section 3, Efficiency, featuring Toyota and Amazon. Let's shift gears and actually see this blueprint in action, starting with the undisputed kings of operational efficiency.
First up, Toyota. These guys literally revolutionized global manufacturing with what's called the Toyota Production System, or TPS. This became the very foundation of lean manufacturing. They championed just-in-time inventory. That means materials arrive exactly when they are needed, no sooner, which completely eliminates massive warehousing costs. They also baked in Kaizen, this relentless culture of continuous improvement, and they were just utterly obsessed with eliminating muda, which means waste. I mean, picture a massive factory floor where any single worker can just pull a cord and stop the entire assembly line if they spot a defect. That's the kind of unprecedented power Toyota gave its people to guarantee staggering quality and efficiency.
Now, while Toyota mastered the physical factory floor, Amazon came along and digitized operations on a scale the world had literally never seen before. They completely innovated supply chain and fulfillment. How? By building this massive network driven by heavy automation, advanced robotics, and just insane amounts of data analytics. They even use predictive analytics to guess what you're going to order before you even click buy. And the whole shebang is backed up by their massive AWS cloud infrastructure.
And the results? Totally staggering. Think about your own life. When was the last time you were actually okay with waiting more than 2 days for a package? Right? By drastically cutting down delivery times, Amazon's hyper-efficient, just-in-time logistics didn't just boost their brand loyalty, it literally rewired consumer expectations across the entire globe. They became the ultimate benchmark for modern logistics. Section 4. Adaptability, starring Zara and McDonald's.
So Amazon and Toyota are all about lean efficiency and speed. But our next two titans, they use a totally different playbook focused on hyper-adaptability and absolute control.
This comparison is just fascinating. On one side, we have Zara. They run on a blistering fast fashion model. Their supply chain is wildly agile. Because they keep a lot of production in-house, they can take a trendy design from a sketch pad to a physical store shelf in just a couple of weeks. It's fast, it's trendy, and it relies heavily on scarcity to drive demand. But then, look at McDonald's. Their operations run on the exact opposite philosophy: global standardization. They lean heavily on extremely rigid standard operating procedures, or SOPs, to make sure their massive scale doesn't totally ruin their consistency.
I mean, just think about the sheer logistical nightmare of McDonald's global expansion. The biggest challenge was trying to maintain consistent quality across so many wildly different cultures and geographies. Their ultimate solution? Obsessively detailed manuals and training programs, the SOPs. And it worked. A McDonald's French fry tastes exactly the same whether you're grabbing it in Tokyo, London, or New York. But here's the genius part. They balance all that strict uniformity with glocalization. So they adapt specific menu items like the Ma Aloo Tikki in India while making sure the core operational engine of frying and assembling stays identical everywhere.
Section 5. Dell and Ultimate Takeaways. Okay, let's look at one last case study that flipped traditional manufacturing entirely on its head right before we synthesize our universal lessons.
Dell is the perfect proof that there's no single way to win a market. You see, instead of mass-producing thousands of computers and just crossing their fingers that people will buy them, which is the mass production model McDonald's uses, Dell went with a direct-to-customer, build-to-order model. You go online, pick the exact specs you want, and then they build it. Doing this required incredibly precise, real-time coordination with suppliers and an amazingly flexible supply chain. Customization was the name of the game.
So bringing all this back together, what are our universal takeaways? Well, from Dell, we learned that customization definitely doesn't have to sacrifice efficiency. From Amazon and Zara, it's crystal clear that true innovation requires a highly flexible supply chain. From McDonald's, we see how rigorous standardization locks in quality and builds serious trust. But if there's one overarching lesson from all these titans, it's this. Operational excellence is not just some boring back-office function. It is a massive, frontline competitive advantage.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought. We've just seen how the world's biggest giants navigate these crazy trade-offs between time, cost, customization, and speed. So, take a look at the systems running in your own world. How will you apply these operational principles to build the hidden engine of your own business? Or, hey, even just to streamline your own life? Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep looking under the hood.